and he joins us this morning on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Rob.
All right, Wiggy, before I rip you apart, you want to yell McFarland for me one time? Let's go.
McFarland!
Attaboy. All right. Good talk.
So, how do you feel about this ball?
Well, I mean, I think it's a conversation like that's easily picked apart. First of all, you can't compare this to the Judge thing because those sort of balls are life-changing instances where the type of money that you're going to get, everyone understand that is going to change people's lives. With the Yoshida ball, it's not changing anyone's life, and in fact, what happens, which is what I think Wiggy was referencing, what happens is they offer them stuff. Like they go up and they offer them stuff. It's their discretion say, well, we're going to take that stuff instead of holding on to it. And in the case of a first home run, and we saw this last year with Tristan Casas, the guy got raked over the coals for insinuating that he was going to hold the ball, and he ended up getting stuff. They always get stuff. They go up, they offer the stuff. And I would make the argument that, let's say that Yoshida offered him a bat, that it wasn't that much is worth a lot less than the ball. I mean, it's a first Masa Yoshida home run ball. This isn't Aaron Judge. This is a first home run ball, which the guy or the kid was going to get something for, and he's just being greedy.
Oh, you think the person who caught Babe Ruth's first ball goes, well, let's just give it back because we don't know what the guy...
I just told you, Wiggy.
You don't know what the guy's going to be, though. You can't say that. You don't know what he's going to be.
Well, first of all...
And let me tell you something, Bradford.
Nobody was selling baseballs or memorabilia for that matter.
You know what? I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that, yes, they gave the baseball back to Babe Ruth.
Right,
there you go.
But guess what? We evolved, and that's what we do nowadays. And let me tell you something.
We evolved into greed.
And Bradford, I know you don't understand this because you get a ton of money for your baseball isn't boring podcast, but $5,000 would change somebody's life.
You know what? And it would. First of all, $5,000 isn't changing the kid's life. It helps.
Oh, you don't know where his
But
situation.
I would also say this. I would also make the argument in this case that what the kid or whoever it was going to get in exchange, which is usually like a couple bats, you could sell for $5,000. You could sell for close of what the ball is worth. This isn't a momentous ball, a baseball souvenir, and it means a whole lot more to the guy hitting it, as we saw with Tristan Casas' case last year, where the guy was raked over the coals for insinuating that he was going to hold on to the ball, he was going to leverage, and sure enough, he got his stuff, everyone was happy. And yeah, so I mean, this isn't Aaron Judge. This isn't even Babe Ruth.
Do it like their players do. When we used to play, you know what you wanted to do? If you wanted a particular number, you would pay somebody for your jersey number.
Okay, but if you're trading for Bam Childress's jersey number, it's about $10. So it's like, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy's first home run. He's not going to be Babe Ruth. It's
never
a nice
know, buddy.
Well, okay, did you think that Tristan Casas, were you screaming about this when Tristan Casas hit the home run and the guy held on to it for 2 seconds and got killed?
Yep, I didn't know Shohei was going to be the next big thing. If I would have caught his first ball, how much is that worth now?
Well, his bat would also probably be worth something which you would get in exchange for it.
No, not more than the ball, buddy. You know that.
Rob, since we have you fiery right now, I see all over social media a Dan Shaughnessy article that dropped this morning about celebrations, and obviously it's been during the show, so I haven't read it in its entirety. But I saw you tweeting about it as well. You don't believe that celebrations and changes in the game are ruining the game?
No, and this is when I did the Baseballs and Boring podcast this morning. I talked to Alex Verdugo and Andrew McCutcheon, and I sent you guys a sound, but Verdugo ripped. He went on a pretty good rant about why celebrations are great, but where there's a time and place for them, and he ripped Alex Manoah of Toronto. He said the way that he does it is wrong, that's not the way you do it. So I think that these people understand, especially coming off the WBC, that this is what you have to do in baseball. You have to show more personality across the board. The sport needs it. This sport is on the cliff, right? We've talked about this. This is the whole baseballs and boring thing and everything else. But you need everything you can. And I think that guys like Verdugo, guys like McCutcheon, who has been around forever, understand that the old way of doing things is out the window. We're not giving the side eye to a guy for celebrating. it should be celebrated anytime anyone shows emotion.
When it comes to Yoshida, Heimblum took some abuse for that deal, which was 5 years, $90 million. And he takes a lot of abuse. Is it at what point can we say that that's actually a pretty good move?
Yeah, I mean, we can't. I think that this is the problem with Yoshida is that I think personally, having seen him play, the amount of times that I've seen him play, I think he's a good player. But you coming off the WBC where he was this iconic figure hitting behind Ohtani, hitting game-winning home runs, and everyone said, oh, there's your superstar. There's the guy. The Red Sox need a superstar now that Bogarts is gone. All they have is Devers, and here's the superstar. That's unfair to Yoshida. And I think that he's a good player. Like, it's the same thing when J.D. Drew came to town, right? We all love J.D. Drew. And so J.D. Drew was paid a ton of money, and everyone wanted him to be a superstar. He wasn't going to be a superstar, but he was a good player. There's nothing wrong with being a good player, but let's just not go overboard about the guy.
Well, J.D. Drew also had the grand slam off of Fausto Carmona, which made him
And that's coming. I think that's Yoshida's absolutely going to hit a grand slam off Fausto Carmona, and then they're going to give the ball right back to him.
I love it.
Bradford, go ahead. No, I was going to say, when you kind of look at I think the biggest thing now is like the Red Sox. It seems like they've always been able to get their bats going, but their biggest question mark now is the starting pitching. You brought up Chris Sale being your guy, and his first outing wasn't very good.
You should have pitched opening day. Oh, man. That would have made opening day so much better.
Wasn't very good. That's a kind way to put it.
I mean, I'm trying to be gentle, right? But when you look at this rotation, what's your level of concern? Really, basically, the only one who's obviously looked well has been Tanner Houck. What's your level of concern with this rotation?
I'm not overly concerned right now because we're not even a whole full time through the rotation. But it's tough to look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, their first 4 starters, I think, have given up a total of 1 or 2 runs. The entire run through those four starters. So when you're competing with a team like that, you better have something better than you've been rolling out. But Wiggy, you ask about my concern. I'm not overly concerned. I'm not overly concerned about Kluber, Sale, Crawford, whoever. But talk to me in 3 weeks. Then we can see what's going on. And because I thought, honestly, coming out of spring training, I thought that that there was a lot of potential there. So I'm not gonna reverse course quite yet.
Rob, where do you stand on Shaughnessy's column? A lot of Shaughnessy love this morning. Sale, worst contract in the history of Boston sports.
Yeah, I heard that conversation, and it's definitely in the conversation, I think. But I would say this. I don't think you can really define it until it's over. And I know that people say, oh, well, it's not going to get any better. He's been bad he hasn't been good in 3 years and so forth and so on. But the contracts that we're comparing them to, and I heard Adam talk about this yesterday, whether it's Rusney Castillo, Carl Crawford, Pablo Sandoval, we already know where those have landed. So, I know that it's tough to look at Sale right now and think that he's going to get better. But before I sort of go down that road and say, oh, this is the worst contract of all time, again, let's wait a little bit.
But how can you go into – I don't understand how you go into this season essentially relying on Kluber to be your ace, and then is Sale your number?
Sam Kennedy told us that Sale was the ace.
He did say that.
So.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. This is the problem with the whole blueprint, which is you didn't have a lot of certainty with this, and you still don't have a lot of certainty with it. And you go into this season, and it's a bunch of maybes, maybe, and that remains the case. I can tell you that Bayo and Whitlock look great, but I also could tell you that Sale looked good in spring training too. So we can't say anything. We can't say that you absolutely have the Shane McClanahan of Tampa Bay. You absolutely have the Garrett Cole. You don't have that. And that's part of the problem when trying to predict what this team is going to be. They can say that they have this ace, and it goes back to the 5 aces of 2015. Well, none of them were aces. So before we say that guy is absolutely going to be that, we can't possibly do that with this team.
Rob, back to opening day, Devers, that pitch clock violation. We talked a lot about it on our show, about why do you feel like hitters need to show that they're alert to the pitcher with 8 seconds left. We went back and forth. Is this a safety thing? Some people don't really like that rule change.
Yeah, well, they tried it out in minor leagues last year, and so that's the rule. That's the way that they were going to do it going forward into this year. I think it's flawed. I think it's unfortunately watching this as much as I have through spring training and early on, and I think the umpires are sort of all over the place. I think you get a lot of younger umpires who are so adamant on adhering to the letter of the law that they do things like that. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, there should be some grace, I think. And I also think that you probably should add 5 seconds on everything. I like the pitch clock. We have it, believe me, it's going to get even better. We're going to have quicker games, but just add a little time and just have a little bit more grace, like in that case.
All right, Bradfo, great to talk to you. We will talk to you again next Tuesday. Oh, what?
I just have one quick question.
Is it marshmallow or whipped cream on a Sunday?
Well, you spoiled my question. I was going to ask Rob, the most important question we've been trying to debate all day, Rob. On ice cream, would you prefer marshmallow or whipped cream?
Well, I haven't had a carb in 5 years, so
all right, weird flex.
Yeah, actually, it's not. It's unfortunate.
It's apparent, obviously, when we see
clearly.
you. Let me tell you that.
Listen, you reach full muscle capacity, you can't get any stronger. But you whipped cream, marshmallow. I mean,
Right, exactly.
Wrong.
Way to
Smartest
go,
guy in
Bradford.
Buffalo.
Wrong.
That's why baseball isn't born.
Thank you, Wiggy. We always come back to a good place, don't we?
That's it, we do.
All right, we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, that's Rob Bradford.